A successful YouTube thumbnail follows a three-part formula, and this lesson will walk you through them all. Part 1. Time allocation. Most small YouTubers go wrong in the time they dedicate to their thumbnails. YouTube is a game of clicks and watches, so the success of a video is determined in part by the effectiveness of the packaging that drives clicks, and in part by the video itself, which drives watch time. The problem is when you spend countless hours perfecting scripts, capturing the best shots, and skillfully editing your videos, only to create a thumbnail an hour before publishing. But why would you spend only 10% of your time on something that determines 50% of the results? The best YouTubers in the world view thumbnails as a priority, not an afterthought. While most creators don't start thinking about thumbnails until right before hitting publish, top YouTubers take the time to finalize their thumbnails first, before they even start working on the video itself. So don't be afraid to spend hours or even days perfecting your thumbnail. It's worth taking the time to get it right. Once you're prepared to give your thumbnail the time it deserves, you're ready to move on to part 2 of the formula for creating a successful YouTube thumbnail, which is psychology. The most successful YouTubers spend the majority of the time allocated to thumbnails nailing the psychology behind the click. Patty Galloway, world-leading YouTube consultant, confirmed this.
A thumbnail to me is at least 80, maybe 90% the psychology of the click, and then maybe 10, 20% the actual design of the thumbnail.
Because no matter the formatting or color scheme of a thumbnail, the decision to click is driven by a psychological mechanism, curiosity. And when this curiosity is strongest, we experience what's known as a curiosity gap. The gap between what we currently know and what we want to know, and it's one of the most important drivers of human behavior. Because as humans, our brains are wired to crave closure. When we're introduced to an unfinished story or a question without an answer, it's like having an itch that we very much want to scratch. That pushes us to seek out answers by clicking on the video. The stronger the curiosity gap, the more clickable the thumbnail. And the strongest curiosity gaps on YouTube are created using one of the same 5 methods. 1. The moment thumbnail. These thumbnails generate curiosity by offering a glimpse into the moment right before a powerful reaction. When the moment captured contains enough emotion and tension, it becomes nearly irresistible. When we inevitably click on the video, we're doing so to find out what happens directly before, during, and after that exact moment. 2. Story thumbnails. Instead of highlighting just one moment, story thumbnails set up the beginning of a story and suggest that the viewer will get to experience a series of events. Viewers click to follow the progression of events and find out how the story unfolds and resolves. 3. Result thumbnails. Result thumbnails showcase a desired outcome. It can be, for example, a physical final product or maybe an achieved skill. The curiosity gap remains the same. Viewers wonder, how did they do it? And often, how can I do it too? 4. Transformation thumbnails. Transformation thumbnails also feature a desired result. The difference is they also show a beginning state. The more relatable this beginning state, the more effective transformation thumbnails are, with the curiosity coming from the desire to know the story and process behind getting from point A to point B. 5. Novelty thumbnails. Last but not least, novelty thumbnails draw their power from our natural urge to experience something we've never seen before. So before you open Canva or Photoshop, consider what curiosity gap you want to create first. After you're 90% sure you have a curiosity gap that will make people click, you have the foundation for a successful thumbnail. However, in order for someone to get hooked by your curiosity gap, they have to notice it in the first place. As soon as we log onto YouTube, we're hit with a screen full of different recommendations, each one competing for attention. To prevent their thumbnails from getting lost in the noise, the best YouTubers know exactly what to include in their thumbnails to stop your scroll because they understand how to hack our brain's attention system. Yes, our attention system can be hacked because our brains are biologically primed to focus on certain things. We'll call these things scroll stoppers, and top YouTubers include them in their thumbnails to ensure they catch your eye. A classic example is the use of faces, as our brains are highly skilled at recognizing faces, which helps us understand other people's emotions and intentions. However, keep in mind that faces are far more effective for well-known YouTubers than for those who are less recognized. This is due to something called familiarity bias, which is the idea that our brains are naturally drawn to what we are familiar with. When we see the face of a YouTuber we already know, like, and trust, we're more likely to click on their thumbnail compared to one featuring an unfamiliar face. Good news. You can still use this familiarity bias to your advantage by featuring a recognizable character or element from a popular game, show, or culture instead of your own face in a thumbnail. And consider using one or more of these scroll stoppers. Large numbers, money, danger and movement, emotion, bright colors, things that are aesthetically pleasing. After you've created a killer curiosity gap and included one or more effective scroll stoppers, you've nailed the psychology of the click. But how can we turn that well-thought-out psychology into a physical thumbnail? That brings us to part 3, design. If it takes the viewer more than 2 seconds to fully understand what's happening in your thumbnail, they've already scrolled past, leaving your video unnoticed and unwatched. To avoid this, your thumbnail needs to be 1. Obvious to see, 2. Easy to process. That's why, when designing your thumbnail, ensure that the main character is positioned so the viewer's eye is drawn directly to it. Don't let supporting characters overshadow the main character. As for text, it should only be used if it adds to the story the thumbnail is trying to tell. What do we mean by additive? Text can provide context, giving viewers insight into things they may not immediately know. Offer clarity to make elements more understandable. Spark curiosity, acting like a subheading. However, don't rely on text to attract viewers in the first place. It should never just repeat your title. Remember, it's about being additive, not repetitive. One more important point about text. Optimize it for listenability. To do that, limit it to a maximum of 5 words. Avoid creating a block of text. Choose a font that's easy to read. Lastly, ensure your text never ranks higher in the element hierarchy than your main character. The main character should always remain the dominant element in the thumbnail, and the text should serve to enhance the story, not take over. So if there is anything important to remember about how to make a successful thumbnail, take this.